There was a contortionist. Yeah, his name is Michael, and he was so good.
That's great.
And it's just like immediately made you feel uneasy because I was like, that's not normal what you're doing with your body. What the hell?
Like, there's some circus like
I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like a lot of it was just having to like just use your imagination, build your own boogeyman.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Movie Podcast. My name is Shahbaz, and of course, I am joined here by my fellow Boogey Mandems, Daniel and Anthony. Daniel, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm loving that the Mandems are always, it's coming through in every episode now. Any chance that there's a title that ends with like man in it, it's going to be Mandem. That's just where we are now.
The next one I can think of is, Superman Legacy, Super Mandems as well is going to be there.
Super Mandems, yeah. I think there'll probably be others before that.
There will be.
I'm assuming. But I think we'll also just use it anyway. Like we're the elemental Mandem. Like I don't know. Like
Mandems.
Elemendems.
Yeah.
The Dead Reckoning Mandems. Like it doesn't. The Mission Impossible
we'll find
Mandems.
a way. We'll find a way.
Yeah, we'll always find a way to make it work.
Yeah, life finds a way, and of course, fresh out from scaring children underneath their bedrooms. Anthony, how are you?
That's so mean. I don't do that every day
anymore.
I don't do that anymore.
Every day.
I'm doing great.
I'm part-time now.
I'm part-time.
You're
yes.
part-time
I get
boogeyman.
The podcast and being a boogeyman. I can't juggle the two together. So
it's great that this press screening, like our press screening for the Boogeyman, worked out because then you could be the Boogeyman and do podcast duties at the same time.
Yeah,
so
you didn't see me
scaring two children with one
lurking
visit.
in the darkness with just my eyes, my pupils, just like I see you.
Is that the voice you do as well?
Yeah, my voice cracked a bit because I'm still going through puberty, but yeah.
I'll be honest though, Shay, like that's even scarier.
It's
like
scarier.
Imagine you're just like in bed at nighttime, you're all like cozy, about to fall asleep, and you just see someone going, I see you. You're like, what? Who's there?
Yeah, it's the real parts of Monsters Inc. that we never really got to see was Anthony's training of becoming a boogeyman. So
yeah,
that's amazing. Of course, this episode, if you have read the title, if you've heard my voice, if you've seen our faces, we are the Movie Podcast, and of course we love talking about movies. We love talking to different actors and actresses and celebrities and whoever they are in the movie world. We're talking to them. We're talking about what they do. And on today's episode, we are joined by the absolutely lovely Sophie Thatcher, who you have probably seen in something, whether it's The Boogeyman, if you've already watched that because you listened to this episode at a certain date, or you've watched her in the Book of Boba Fett, or maybe you're a big fan of the show Yellow Jackets and you've seen her on there, because Sophie Thatcher is everywhere. And you know what? One place she is also is on this episode. We had a great time having a conversation with her about being from all those different universes, but also just talking about horror movies in general. And of course, want to give a huge shout out to our friends over at 20th Century Studios for inviting us to come watch this movie, and also for all the nightmares they've given us as well. So thank you for that.
Definitely, yeah. It's also funny, Shay, you mentioned, if people have watched it already. It pays to be a fan of the Movie Podcast because there's a possibility that you entered in a giveaway that we had where we were giving away tickets to watch it early, and Sophie was there.
Yeah.
That you could have been there watching it. Now you're listening to it from an interview earlier in the day. It pays to be a Movie Podcast fan.
We don't take any responsibility for any nightmares you've had, though.
Anthony does, but we don't.
Anthony does.
I will take full responsibility. 100%.
Yeah.
Every day.
As a man who doesn't dream. Yeah.
Yeah. Pay your boogeyman, like he's
if you
working
want
hard
to, if you would like to leave $1 for me when I come, that'd be great. I'd be happy.
You're like a reverse tooth fairy. Instead of like
capitalism,
you leave $1,
man.
so that's true.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
You don't take teeth, but you do leave trauma. So
yeah,
that's how they do it.
Yeah, people paying for their trauma. I guess that's a normal thing anyways. But of course, at the end of our interview with Sophie, we will be talking about our thoughts on the film as well. So do stay tuned for that. We're The Movie Podcast. You can find us at The Movie Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And of course, you can rate us on Spotify. You can rate us on Apple Podcasts. You can probably rate us on any podcast platform that is out there. So please make sure to go ahead and do that. Of course, The Boogeyman will be in theaters June 2nd. So if you do get squeamish or you do get a little scared, maybe that's the day you should try to face your fears. I don't want to take too long, but let's go ahead and kick it over to our interview with Sophie Thatcher.
Well, Sophie, thank you so much for taking your time with us today on the movie podcast. You are phenomenal in this movie. Every scene that you're in carries such a presence. So that was awesome to see. And I think everyone in our screening was so terrified. They were screaming before the movie even started, I think, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, it was like
the trailer's really good.
Pins and nerves, absolutely.
The trailer like really
it sets the tone. So I have to know, how good are you with scary movies?
I'm pretty good.
Yeah?
I love horror movies. I grew up with horror movies. I was making horror movies when I was younger. I was making zombie movies with my friends and my sister. Yeah, I love horror movies.
So what advice do you have for people out there that to get in that mindset of being so cool when watching a horror movie?
I don't know. I mean, for me, it's like, as an actor, I know, and this kind of takes away the magic, but I'm like, oh, this isn't fully real, which shouldn't be the approach, because that takes away the like immersion factor and the magic. Sure. But sometimes you just like, when you're too scared, you have to realize that this is not real. What Sadie says in the trailer, she's like, it's not real.
No, but that's true. When you look at it that way, like you try to convince yourself that what you're seeing isn't real, but I think it almost sometimes makes it even scarier for some people.
Yeah, so I don't know. I can't help them. I'm used to it. I've been around the block with horror.
That's good. That's good. Now, Vivian and yourself have such wonderful chemistry. You have such a wonderful sisterly bond in the movie as well. And I love in this movie that Sadie really believes what Sawyer's going through, that experience that she's kind of having. I have to know, how much time did you have to really like build that relationship with her?
We had like 2 weeks before shooting, and the director was very big on us just hanging out and getting to know each other and build that familiarity and that closeness. And I think you can read that you can just like feel that, like, it's so natural and it's so fluid, and it's just like, that's the one time that Sadie can be herself, is with her sister. Every other, like, you see her with her friends, she's a different person. So I think building that, I mean, she feels like my younger sister. She's also just so incredible, like so good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was like when you both were on screen, I was like, okay, I'm so locked in right now, but I'm still kind of nervous for something to pop around the corner.
Yep. You never know.
So what did you do in between these intense scenes to kind of just like relieve some of that stress and tension?
I always go back to my trailer. I was good with like setting up alone time.
Nice.
Listen to music. I have a playlist for the character. I think music is always the biggest thing that can like center me and like get me back to normal really quickly.
What is like top 3 songs that you were kind of like constantly on rotation for you?
Oof. It was just a lot of ambient music, because I feel like that is what centers me the most and can like bring me back down to normal. A lot of Harold Budd.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very cool. Now, obviously, you're both in Star Wars as well. You and Vivian. Did you guys kind of bond over being from a galaxy far, far away?
We actually did. Yeah, that was like one of our first bonds, because her show hadn't come out yet.
Right.
So she's like, let me tell you a secret. And I just felt honored that she was like telling me these little secrets.
Oh my God.
I was like, oh, I feel so I feel so cool.
What was that reaction to like, you're Leia?
Oh no, it's absurd, but it makes sense because she's a freaking star. She's a star. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's really cool. Question. Would you rather be stuck in the house with the Boogeyman or stuck in the wilderness with your characters from Yellow Jackets?
Maybe stuck in the wilderness, because we can find light moments sometimes.
Nice.
And they were my teammates, you know? I say my teammates. I'm so connected now. I feel like there's more reasoning that can be done.
Yeah, you can't really reason with the Boogeyman.
Nope.
Running and finding
You're just running. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of when you're kind of running away from the Boogeyman in those scenes, what is exactly that you're looking at? Is there is there a puppet? Is there just nothing there, or just something completely different?
They like built this head, and there was a stick, and that was just for eyeline. But I sometimes preferred just this like silver ball, so I could just use my imagination and come up with something horrifying and on the spot.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I was kind of trying to figure out, I'm like, is a person chasing you?
There was a contortionist. Yeah, his name is Michael, and he was so good.
That's great.
And it's just like immediately made you feel uneasy, because I was like, that's not normal what you're doing with your body. What the hell?
Like, there's some circus like
I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like a lot of it was just having to like just use your imagination, build
Right.
your own boogeyman.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Now, who are you most excited to show this movie to? Are there any like friends or family that you feel like just cannot do horror movies and you're like, I need to show it to them?
That's a good question. Well, my family has already seen it because we showed the premiere. I have some friends that would like freak out, and yeah. I have a friend of mine, and I'm not going to call her out, but
This is that moment, though. I think you can.
I'm not going to say anything. But yeah. I mean, I was scared watching it, and I
Yeah.
did the movie.
Yeah.
So
Do you find it scary to kind of watch the movie or to make the movie?
watch it, definitely.
Watch
Making the movie is like, I mean, I had to build myself up to like panic mode a lot, but that was coming from an entirely different place, you
Right.
know? Yeah. Watching the movie, I was like, it's well done.
Yeah. Scrolling through the script, screaming at all the different pages pretty much.
You're
right?
like, pause, silence, Fred.
Now, before we wrap up, we have to know, are you checking to make sure all the doors are locked now before you leave somewhere or closed at least?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
I've always
Check
been
this
good
for-
with that because I'm just like scared of everything.
Yeah, do you have
But not horror movies.
No, of course, not horror movies, but doors.
But life.
Absolutely. Well, Sophie, thank you again so much for your time
Thank you.
today. This movie's phenomenal. I can't wait for people to see it and just be screaming nonstop. And I think it's going to make more people check under their bed than before.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That is the goal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What an awesome, really fun interview that was. Daniel, it looks like you're already scared. If you haven't already, there was some points in that interview where Sophie does talk about how to face your fears when watching a movie. I'm assuming we're all kind of applying this theory now.
That's how I'm going to choose to live my life is through her words and through the words of the movie podcast interview with her. So 100%.
Good. Perfect. I do want to touch base also a little bit more about how this movie was and what we thought about it. And of course, Anthony, if you want to go ahead and start us off with, what are your thoughts on the Boogeyman?
I was a little conflicted with it because I really enjoyed the performances in the film, but I didn't find it scary enough to put me into that horror, that supernatural vibe to that this movie was supposed to kind of draw you into. There are those jump scares that we're all used to at this point. I think a lot of people in our theater when we were watching it were a little bit jumpy at certain points. I was kind of like stoic and say, I could have been scarier.
Yeah. This is just how I wake up every day. I'm used to this.
But there are
He's
moments.
not doing it the right way. That's not how I would scare somebody.
But I think with the Boogeyman is never like an entity you see, right? It's something that your imagination pulls in. And I feel like that's where the director was kind of going with, but then kind of lost track with actually making it giving it physical form. And I think once you give it physical form, you lose the scariness of this creature because it becomes a creature. It's not scary anymore. It's not something that lives in the shadows. It's physical. It can be heard. It can be touched. So things like that kind of like I lost that feeling of I'm scared. I'm not scared anymore. I'm not scared anymore. But
Once
You
you
hear me?
personified that
I'm
character,
not afraid anymore.
but there's
once you kind of personified that character, it really becomes hard to not see anything other than, because what your mind is going to create is going to be scarier.
yes.
There's
definitely.
there's a line that I always think about in Iron Man 2, so I'm pulling from the vaults here. But when Ivan Vanko's telling like Tony, like when you can make God bleed, people are going to cease to believe in him. And I think that's what's funny enough that the Boogeyman kind of does. Once we know that you could hurt it, once you know that it's like, oh, it's like a creature. This is more of a creature than a mental creation of what each character
Your
is seeing.
imagination,
Once you know it's just like a creature. For me, and I think for us, that's where we lost the little bit of that scariness, right, to that world that it's creating, because it is really I really do love the art direction and the sound direction for this film, but it really does take a turn once you actually see the creature.
What I really liked about it is the idea that let's take grief, let's take denial, and let's put this into the dealing with the Boogeyman and how those things kind of morph into being your own Boogeyman. I like that. But then when it became like a physical form and it stopped being scary. I felt like they should have waited a little bit longer into the movie to reveal the identity or the entity of what the boogeyman is. Because I think when you keep it in the dark as long as you can, as well as create this sense of, because the family goes through a traumatic experience, keep that as the forefront and have the audience really dive into what it's like to be in a grief situation where you are feeling sorrow, and then building onto that horror element of the boogeyman feeds on it. It draws it in, it likes it, it pulls you in, it manipulates you, and it wants more and more from it. And I think that's where I would have made it more scarier than just, oh, it's that guy. Like, he's in the corner. Just poke him with a stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right on there, where you talk about a film where once again you've seen that character, you've seen what it looks like, you've seen, like Daniel said, you can see it bleed. A lot of the fear kind of goes with it. And I think a movie like this really needs to capitalize on trusting that the audience can create something scarier. And again, this is based on the Stephen King book, so we don't know. I haven't read the book personally, so I don't know how much he's taken the boogeyman lore and made it into something like this, because
Yeah.
the character looks so alien like. I got vibes of a character from Quiet Place. Sorry, yes, A Quiet Place, where it was just these alien looking characters, and he never really created that scare for me, I think. But the mood, the tension, the performances, Vivian Lyra Blair, for example, is phenomenal. We've seen her in the Obi-Wan show as young Leia, and of course you have Sophie Thatcher, who just carries grief and that mood and that presence throughout every single scene that she's in. And then you have Chris Messina, who's in his hot sad dad phase right now, where he's just like he's got that rough beard going on, but he's kind of like suave in a way, but not like annoyingly. But it's like, damn, like you're probably out there at the bars, like talking to all the single moms out there or something. Because man, he's just really good, and I wish there was more of him on screen. He's really, really fun to watch, and I think this is a great year for him, coming off of Air, where he was phenomenal in that. I want to see Chris in more and more movies now, especially roles like this where he can be a bigger impact in them. There's good jump scares in this movie, and a lot of the times, I think Daniel, you and I were talking about this, it reminded us of when we were kids, like probably like 13, 14 years old, and Friday night would come along and your friends would be like, hey, you want to go watch a movie? It's like, yeah, let's go watch The Boogeyman.
Let's go hit up famous players. Let's go hit up Silver City. You know what I mean?
It has those merits, right? It has those merits of being that PG-13 horror. I think if you're looking for something that is going to be just that level of dread, that's something that I think the last film that kind of gave me that was Smile, where it was a bit more of a rated R film because it packed the gore, but also the scare was a lot different. That's something that you probably won't be getting in a movie like The Boogeyman,
and that's okay too. I think it's good to have different levels of horror available for us, and obviously this is a PG-13 film. I think it does have some really great moments, but yeah, if you're looking for something that's genuinely scary, again, your mileage is going to vary for that, because we watched this with a lot of people who found it extremely terrifying. We know a lot of our friends who have seen it that have said it's very scary. But I think that's a personal, that's like seasoning, right? Like, what's too spicy for you? For this, I felt like, this one, I think for kids going to go watch it, that PG-13, I think it's going to hit in a really good spot for that. But for us who maybe we're just dead inside, maybe we're just charred humans with no souls on the beginning, we're just like, yeah, it could be scarier. We want to see them go
I think
through
it's
more.
really hard to make a horror film. It's really hard to make a horror film and comedy film. And I know the two separate genres, but it's just very difficult to do those two genres because there's a lot of.
They're all about timing.
Yes, it's timing, but there's a lot that came before it, and it's like, how can you scare me even more?
And that's the thing, right? And I think there's a lot of great in this, and I think we look at the performances: Chris Messina, Vivian, Sophie Thatcher, like they are the driving force in this film. And I think any time that we are spending with them, it's really great. I just wish that, I guess, the creature or the boogeyman itself had a little bit more of a scare for me, less of a creature, more of a manifestation of what is giving me grief. But like Anthony said, I think this does a really great job of showcasing the grief that they are going through. And David Dashmalian, who's in this as well too, he is great for the time that he's in this movie. He will always make me feel unnerved and scared. And he's done that since I first saw him in The Dark Knight. So it's just he's a great actor, and I just love seeing him pop up in more and more.
All right, well, it's time to go ahead and put the Boogeyman back in the closet. We're going to lock up these doors, make sure everyone's windows are closed. Actually, no, windows should be open because the light is what scares the Boogeyman. So keep your windows open. Make sure all your doors are locked, and it's time to say goodbye to the movie podcast because we are going back into the closet. Wait, hold on. That's not what I meant. The Boogeyman will be available in theaters June 2nd. Please go ahead and give it a watch and let us know what you think as well. And of course, huge shout out to our friends over at 20th Century Studios for inviting us to come watch this film and also for having that amazing conversation with Sophie Thatcher as well. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and give us a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below about what you thought about the movie, what you thought about the interview, where you think Yellow Jackets is going. I heard the last episode was crazy. I can only assume that people's minds are blown. Of course, there's so much stuff out there. We also have some amazing coverage for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. We have some fantastic interviews up, reviews up as well. So please go ahead and give that a listen. Let us know what you think all about that. Of course, this is the Movie Podcast, so you can follow us at the Movie Podcast on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Letterboxd. Leave us a review on any podcast platform and make sure you're subscribed because there's going to be more amazing things that will be coming. More contests like Daniel alluded to earlier. A lot of great stuff. That was This Time with the Movie Podcast. We'll see you next.